What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we are looking at ban list stuff. Yes, it is that time. It is that time of, I don't know, the format. We're in ban list territory. We've got about 2 weeks until the no sooner than date. And, with that, Jesus Christ. and with that, we need to start looking at this stuff because I think more so than ever, it's important for the ban list to be right, to do good stuff, because with products getting pushed back, we're not going to get as consistent product releases, changing up the games, adding new stuff to the game. And so I think the ban lists need to shoulder more of the burden of making sure the formats are shifting, are rotating, are feeling fresh. And so today I'm showing you my perfect ban list. Is it my exact prediction? No. I'm going to have more stuff on here than what I expect to see on the ban list, but for me, this would be pretty close to like what a perfect ban list would look like. So without further ado, let's just get started here with the ban section. Of course, this is the most important section, of course. I kind of look through here because Tier Maker always jumbles up your stuff. First off here, Imperial Order. This may look like a weird one to some people. Are like, John, it's just a one-of side deck option. Well, not always. Some decks are main decking it because it's that powerful a card. Here's the problem. This is a card that half the time just says 4 out of your 6 cards in hand going second. Useless. And the other 2 are just monsters. I have a 1 or 2 other disruptions and you lose. The duel's over. It's insane. The other really insane thing about this card is that it just doesn't even... it beats what's supposed to be like what would handle back row. So Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, that stuff you just chain this to. Like specifically Cosmic Cyclone's the only thing that like works around this as far as like generic cards that like are currently being played. So I think it's better if it just ends up getting banned, or Twin Twister as well works around it. But if you're forcing them to use it first, then this card still beats those cards. It's crazy. Too powerful. I'm not a big fan. Next up we have Red Reboot. We put it to 1, but I'd kind of just like to see it go. It's another one of those cards, just sacky one-ofs. So yeah, I just would like to see it go. I don't know. There's skill that goes into like playing against back row decks, but just like wiping the whole back row just seems so ridiculously broken. So yeah, and it's just the fact that they can't even activate another trap after they do this, and the duel's just over at that point. Next up is a really interesting one from me, Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. We're getting more Leerless support, which works with like Bird Up or Leerless Tri-Brigade. And we're also getting the new archetype Flundereeze, which has a card that essentially just tour guides this out of the deck. I think for everybody's sake, it'd probably just be better if we just ban this. Wind is the least used, generally over the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the least used attribute in Yu-Gi-Oh! So, other than like Divine, I guess. But this is really cool. I just think it's better to hit it now. We're getting a bunch of stuff that's even going to make this even more like abusable, and even with Bird Up you could have argued it was better to just go. So yeah, Barrier Statue of the Stormwind's definitely next up there. We move to Mystic Mine. Listen, this is my perfect ban list. I know mine isn't super omnipresent everywhere you look right now in the format, but the fact that dinosaurs can abuse it, decks like Prank Kids can abuse it, and those are legit meta relevant decks, really makes this hurt. Like we have stuff like Super Poly, but you're just like, okay, but like very specific decks can use Super Poly. Any deck with like field spells and like wants to be better going second can play Mystic Mine. And so yeah, it's too good for me. It's too abusable. Keo, can you give me a second here? All right. Guard Dragon LP is our next card. Where is it at? I gotta find it down here. Also going in the ban section. I actually went back and forth on this. I don't even think the correct hit is LP, but specifically because Burst of Destiny has already revealed that it's going to be a rocket support set, makes me think that LP is more likely. I don't think they're going to go after any rocket card specifically. So that means Rocket Tracer. That means Quick Launch. That means Striker Dragon. I don't think they'll go after any of those cards, and so I think LP is the most obvious hit. Brings down the ceiling, and also LP is a popular hand trap target for the deck. So if you take that away, they have to play without LP, and they can still do combos, but now your hand trap just goes to the next best target. So it's just one less bait of a card. You know how like Infernobles will play like Hulk and I Sold? You hand trap one, they go into the other, still punish you for it. This kind of takes away one of those options for Dragon Link. Okay, so then we move to the limited option. That is everything for my bans, nothing too obscenely crazy there. Starting off in the ban section, we're gonna go, you're gonna see a little bit of a theme here, right? So I'm starting off here with Tanki. This is kind of something I've been falling more into. Anything that's even Rhoda-esque or emergency teleport-esque should probably just be 1, right? Zodiac Barrage is at 1. We've got Rhoda itself at 1, right? And so I think I'd like to see more of those cards just end up at 1. They're going to be abused generically later on, and we've got some good stuff for Tanki between Zodiacs, between Tri-Brigade. I think it's better to just hit it now. That way Konami doesn't have to feel restricted to make future archetypes too good, too consistent. Those decks are plenty consistent even without Tanki. So I think Tanki to 1 is fine. Nothing crazy, but definitely something I'd like to see there. Next up, we have Drytron Nova. This is the one hit to Drytron. I get it. They just got support, and I know it seems weird for them to like go after. Kyo, stop scratching the screen. I know it seems crazy for them to go after the deck that they just supported, but clearly the deck's tier 1, and a lot of competitive players are arguing it's like the best deck now, even better than you know, Tri-Brigade and Dragon Link and stuff like that. So really cool to see that there. I'd like to see it go to 1. It's searchable off the field spell, so they can play field spell at more copies, which does mean they lose harder to draw, but I don't know. I think it's just a fine one of it. They just get so much value off of that one card specifically. Lets them play around interruptions and stuff like that, which is never what you want to see. Next up, I'm going to throw these together, Nadir Servant and Magical Meltdown. Kind of same thing, just search cards, right, for their archetypes. Specifically Meltdown, though, is one of those cards that gives you unfair interactions once you start fusion summoning, and so I don't like having this card at like super consistent access, although I do think it is a necessary card for them, because I think just having Alistair is just, it's not worth playing 3 Alistair with 2 Invocation, but it may be worth to play 1 Meltdown, 1 Terraforming, and 3 Alistair. And then Nadir, kind of the same thing, right? Like, Ecclesia is good enough on her own. You get plenty, you just get a solid +1 and an interruption off of her. But Nadir Servant just feels like one of those unfair cards. Plus, with all these cards, we have like Pot of Prosperity coming in and like really making these decks a lot more consistent as well. They just don't need to be at 3. And I think this will do that, especially since they're like splashable engines too, taking away from a little bit of that splashability. Leo's sitting on my list here, so I can't see what I'm supposed to be doing next here. Okay. All right, cool. So next up, I have Miscellaneous Source going to 1. I honestly wouldn't even be mad if it went to 0. Listen, they got Scrap Raptor. The ceiling of the deck has risen. I do like Miscellaneous Source as part of the combo, but at 1, you kind of use it once and it's kind of gone. But also, you're not hard opening Miscellaneous Source. Searching Miscellaneous Source off of Fossil Dig still feels bad, and say they would still have like 4 copies technically, but the worst of it is when like you go to hand trap them and they just had it raw in hand, and this really limits their ability to open it that way. At least you'll have knowledge that they have it and you're not just wasting cards in hand more often. So mix to 1, and then finishing up here we have Tidal and Blaster going to 1 as well. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. I think these 2 are fine. I think Redox is really the scariest one, because Earth just tends to be a more generic type than Wind, Water, and Fire. You just see it more often. There's way more Earth cards than those. Blaster's just a pop. Tidal's fine as well. Just going to 1. I think like what, Mermails? Ooh, just not that worried about it, to be honest. And that finishes our limited section, which then takes us to our final section here. Semi-limits. I put LOL here because like at first I was like, no semi-limits. And then I looked at it and I was like, ooh, Scapegoat. I've talked about this in every BANLIST video for like the last like half a year to a year. Scapegoat can fully come off the list. I don't think they would immediately. So put it to 2, see it do nothing still, and then put it to 3. It's just a cool card, and I think like very specific strategies, you know, stuff like Subterror, stuff like, I know Trickstar is hilarious, but when Trickstars were at their best, they were just kind of taking advantage of their, you know, plussing engine, while also just using Scapegoat to promote like power plays. It's a 1-card link 4, and for slower decks, that's pretty good. It's really bad going second. It's still pretty slow going first. I think it's absolutely fine. We have stuff like Torrential Tribute all over the format. Punish this card immensely. So yeah. And then we get to the unlimits. Let me move my fat. Oh no. Where's my, no. Oh, just let me, there we go. Jesus. Let me move my fat head up there. And now we're going to get to the banned section, or the unbanned section. Geez, unlimited. First off, Mirage Stalio. Please take this card off the ban list, Konami. This card can be at 3. It doesn't even matter. Conflicts with access code anyway, so the new best part about the deck doesn't work with this. It's a nice utility card for them. Gets you a bounce while also getting you into your engine. But like Gazelle still at 1, Circle still at 1. Totally fine for this to go to 3. Yatagarasu sucks. Time Seal sucks. Let's see. Dynamite Knight. We're getting Flundereeze, which appears to just be able to play all the like crazy stun cards that Dracos could, but just be more offensive with it and more combo-y. So just like cool. As long as they don't have Masterpiece or Diagram at more than 1, like fine. Take all the Dynamite Knights you want. Red Eyes Dark MD. Errata. Skullcrobat Joker. This is an interesting one. As you can tell, I don't have Electromite on this list, and so this is kind of something I wanted to give them along with Double Iris, even though the picture got cut off. It's funny. Skullcrobat seems fine. It's just another solid normal summon for Performapal, Odd Eyes / Magician decks. I think it's okay. It only triggers on normal summon, so it does take your normal. I think that's totally fine. But it's a good card for them. And I'd like to see a little more Pendulum. I don't like never seeing Pendulum. I just don't like seeing a ton of Pendulum. I think this will get us at a nice in-between. We'll see more Pendulum players come out of the woodwork from hiding. But we also, I don't think it'll like take over the format. Same thing with Double Iris. If it's at 1, it can be at 3. And let me make sure I have nothing else here. Cool. All right, then the last section here, and I should have, hold on, let me do this real quick. How do can I add a new one? Add a row below, cool. We'll use this last row below this as a just honorable mention, stuff that I didn't put on here, but I think you guys might be curious about. Terraforming, I think it's fine at 1. It's just 1, and I get it, it's crazy, the cards that it can get, but 1 is 1. Super Poly, again, I talked about this kind of with like Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine can be played in like pretty much any deck that wants to be better going second, specifically more stun decks, but you also see it with like going second decks like Dinos, and you see it with Sky Strikers and Prank Kids, but this card can only really be played in specifically like Shadalls. Like, that's it. I mean, there are other decks that can like fringely use it, but it's not great, right? So like only worse decks can even attempt to play this card. Dragoon. I'd like to put Dragoon on here. I just still think it's too early. I mean, look at the format. Like, what deck are you looking around like terrified because Dragoon? The format's not Dragoon dependent. It's too bricky for most decks, for most real meta decks to want to even attempt to play it. So fine. Called by the Grave. I'm kind of proud that I ended up early on Called by the Grave, saying that like it's a really nasty card. I play it in any deck I can because it feels good going second, it feels good going first, and that's it. It's just like always good. It may not always win you the duel, but it's always good. It is never not going to do something. It's either baiting negates, it's an insane interruption versus certain decks, or whatever. It's just really good. I think 1 is fine for now. I'm kind of conflicted. If it got banned, I wouldn't be super upset. But if it got to 3, also wouldn't be super upset. I don't know. Harpy's Feather Duster. This almost fell in the same category as these two, but this can be responded to. Like, the biggest thing here is that like Imperial Order like counters most of its what should be counters, right? Same thing with Red Reboot. Like, unless they have exactly Solemn Judgment, you just wins every interaction with a trap card. Whereas this has a multiple different ways to like beat it essentially, and that's that's where I think it's like more fair, I guess. Trickstar Light Stage. I think while Dragoon's still here, I think this should probably be here, just so we don't see like too many just like Trickstar Control Burn Red Eyes decks. Just sounds awful. Harp Horror, again, Orcust seems to be doing fine. Apparently Orcust Eldritch is actually performing decently well as one of the Eldritch variants, so I think that's hilarious, and I guess shows me that we don't need Harp right now. Maybe if we see a little more power creep, or they just fade away again. We also got the Scraps too, which just buffed them, so maybe this is a little overkill. They're doing pretty well, so I don't think we need to complain. Electromite, again, I gave him Skullcrabat in this. I don't want to, I think Electromite might be pushing it just a little bit over the edge. I'm not totally opposed to it. I don't know. I don't want to do it and then just have us be like stuck in like a shitty Pendulum format where Pendulums are like the best deck. I just don't want to go through that. That just sounds the worst. So I'm going to leave him off for now, but I'm not totally opposed to putting him back on at some point. And the last card, Max C, whatever. Like, again, I'm not opposed to it, but it's just going to be the same thing with the OCG. Like, every deck's going to be main decking 3 of this if we add it to, if we add it back into the game. So I'm kind of just okay to leave it off. Just even for the sake of like having the difference between us and the OCG. But yeah, those are all the honorable mentions. I'm sure there's something else. If you think I missed anything, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. Anything that you would change, anything you hate, anything you like, whatever. Just leave me your thoughts on the ban list situation. It's going to be crazy. I'm very excited to see where Konami goes. The OCG ban list just came out and it was not super big. And I'm very curious to see where Konami wants to go for our ban list. So let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.